Good morning, Adelaide. My name is Con and I am the Conversationalist back for the regular Friday session. As always, I have my latte in tow and I believe my guest has a double shot. Tanya, very good, and one on standby, she tells me. This morning, my guest is Tania Cavaiuolo, and Tanya is a certified practicing marketer who's led national teams, digital transformation, and national marketing campaigns, including the most successful World's Greatest Shave, which now is in its 22nd year, which is absolutely amazing. Tanya supports the empowerment of vulnerable women through the Women's Legal Service SA, and she is on the board of that. A little bit of additional information that Tanya shared. She has a Bachelor of Music and loves to take creative breaks by singing a few tunes on her 1906 grand piano. I hope that is insured for a bucket ton of money. Tanya, good morning, Tanya. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thanks. I'm nice and warm, which is a bit challenging at this time of the year in Adelaide, but yeah, all good. All good.
I was going to say we're it's a bit like a heat wave today. There was no ice on my car at 7 o'clock in the morning.
No, well, I haven't been out to my car this morning yet, so I'm reluctant to see what that's like.
No, I promise you, it's actually not too bad. Hey, Tanya, thanks very much for your time this morning. One of the things that Tanya shared with me earlier is she's actually met the Dalai Lama. Now, how did that come about? Tell us the backstory with that.
I think one of the most random moments of my life, really. It wasn't planned, and I think sometimes the best things in life are the ones that aren't planned. I was studying. It was my final year of my marketing degree. I'd had an exam, and it was actually really tough. I usually finish ahead of time. I prep really well for exams, and this one was the first time the lecturer had run that particular course, and he just completely overestimated what was possible in the time that we had. So we were all writing furiously, and I was completely exhausted after the exam. And instead of going back to work that day, I just said, I just need to unwind, because it was just so wound up by the experience. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and have a cup of tea with Mum and Dad. So I drove from the Wavell Showgrounds, and my parents live in the western suburbs of Adelaide, and I was heading my way there. And as I got a bit closer, I thought, gee, there are a lot of cars here on it was a Wednesday afternoon. It was some unusual time of the day. And I got closer and closer, and I realised everyone was really dressed up, and there were families, and everyone was walking towards Mum and Dad's street. So I was doing the back routes, and got to the street, and there were a flock of people at the Tibetan Institute next door to Mum and Dad's house. I thought, what on earth is going on? So, I used my buzzer, I let myself in the house, and I said to them, what is going on out there? Anyone would think the Dalai Lama is coming. And they said, he is. And I said, what? What? The Dalai Lama's coming next door and you didn't think to tell us? And they said, well, no, they came over a couple of days ago and they said, we're really sorry about the inconvenience. There's going to be a lot of people here. Just, these are the times, just so that if you need to plan around it, please do that. And they were just so apologetic. And I said, I can't believe the Dalai Lama is coming here. I said, that's like the Pope. This is really huge. And they said, really? I said, yes. So anyway, we decided to go next door. So we went next door. We didn't go inside. We didn't want to be too disrespectful, but we did stop him on the way out and we said hello, and he was lovely. And it was quite strange to have him next door to the house where I grew up, fortuitously just turning up on the day at the moment that he was there.
That is amazing. You're right. It's the most amazing things that just absolutely come out of nowhere. You couldn't have planned that if you tried.
No, not at all.
So that's great. Tanya, we'll move on to some serious stuff. Obviously, empowerment of women and all those sorts of things at the moment. But apart from being topical, it's important that wheel continues to turn and turns largely and quickly. Tell me how the circumstances around you becoming involved with the Women's Legal Service and actually becoming a board member, which is an enormous commitment.
Yeah, I think for me, I have a really strong not-for-profit background. So I headed up marketing for the Leukemia Foundation nationally for 7-8 years. And I have always been really drawn to work that has a social or an environmental or a community building aspect. So I had been on the lookout for an opportunity to join a board as a volunteer board member for a while, but I just didn't want to join any board. I wanted to feel like I was doing something meaningful. And I'm really lucky, Con. I have had a really safe upbringing. Mum was amazing, Dad was amazing. Not everyone has that story, unfortunately. I've had really a good life, and I know that's, unfortunately, I've got a couple of friends who had tough times in domestic situations. And I just, when an existing board member approached me and asked if it would be something I would be interested in, I looked into it. The Women's Legal Service do amazing work. It's, for those who don't know what they do, it's free legal representation and advice, and often connection to other support services, so a network of support for women. Often they're from disadvantaged backgrounds, many are new arrivals, some are threatened being sent back home and separated from family and friends by, unfortunately, people close to them who they think love them. And often for these women, they don't have friends and associates and a network of support that maybe you or I might have. So the service does a really amazing job at being there for women when they really don't know where else to turn. And I remember in making my decision about the board, and obviously meeting the board members, and everyone's terrific, we get along really well. But I remember reading a story in the annual report about a woman who she'd married someone in Australia. She was from an Asian background, and was really very much controlled by her husband. And she actually was on a school excursion with her children, and they happened to walk past the Women's Legal Service, and she doubled back and she popped in. And I just think about this woman who, that's a pretty courageous thing to do, to just kind of say, I need help, and I think this is a place that can help me. So I'm really proud of the work that the team does. They work very hard, and I feel quite good about contributing to that cause.
As you should. It is an amazing cause, and I guess what I find interesting is that most times people become involved in whether it be a charity or that kind of thing, they come from a background where they've been exposed in some way to that. You have not, which I find quite interesting that you were drawn to that, and that's a great thing. As we said at the beginning, you're a marketing whiz. How did it come to start your own business? Like, we go through life, and certainly I speak from my own experiences, and you work for people, and then somewhere along the line something happens, whether it's an event, whether it's a chance meeting, whatever it is. Yeah. Tell me your story.
Well, I trained in marketing later, so I did an undergraduate in a different area, and then it was actually a mentor of mine who I was working for him doing just some administrative work, and he said, I think you have an aptitude for marketing. Have you ever thought about that? And I said, I haven't, but I will. And then I sort of moved on into the path, and I realised that I could connect my creative self, my analytical self, and just my desire to help people in that craft. So I initially worked for an accounting firm, an accounting and consulting firm, and became their marketing manager. And that was a great grounding. Having 7 bosses was terrific. When you're in a partnership, it's
Yeah.
definitely a learning curve. For
Yeah.
anyone who's been in that situation, you will understand that comment much more deeply. But yeah, so it was a great grounding in marketing. But then the job at the Leukemia Foundation came up, and initially I won the position for looking after South Australia and Northern Territory. And about 18 months later, the national role came up. So I've been in that organisation for 8 years. And once you're sort of the national marketing manager, there really isn't anywhere else to go. And as much as I loved campaigns like World's Greatest Shave, which was already running well before I came on board, and the campaign that the fundraising manager and I rolled out Australia-wide called Light the Night. So that was a new campaign that he researched and we developed together. The challenges weren't there, and there were some changes at the structural level with the organisation, and I thought, I don't think there's anything else here for me. So I left, and then really was thinking, well, what do I do? Am I interested in doing something else? And again, an associate said to me, have you thought about running your own show? And as I often do, I haven't, but I will now.
But I will.
And then 4 weeks later, I'd registered my business name, and 5 weeks later, I had picked up my first client. And that suddenly is 4 years ago. So I remember being at that point thinking, this is so scary. I was building the house I'm in now. I had 2 mortgages. It was a crazy thing to do. But I also thought, if I don't do this now, I probably never will. So yeah, I certainly don't regret the decision. It's completely different to being employed for someone.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the roller coaster is of ebbs and flows, feast and famine. But it's also exciting to be the master of your own destiny, I think.
It is. And for those that, if you've never been your own boss, you just won't understand that the ebbs and flows and the roller coaster of everything, emotional, financial, the highs are tremendously high and the lows can be sometimes pretty damn dark. But I commend you for doing that. Tanya, I don't like to continue to talk about it because from a negative perspective, and I always try to be upbeat and look at moving forward. But unfortunately, like it or not, COVID is still a very topical conversation on a number of fronts. Marketing, surely there would have been some pivots that would have need to have been done, and not only for your business, but indeed for your clients. Can you tell me about some of those?
Yeah, I think like many industries, when it came to something like marketing, it became a question about, what's the economic impact? What are the decisions I need to make to save my resources, my financial resources right now? And I think anyone in business, in March and April, we were all thinking, how long is this going to last? What do we need to save for? What can we cut? And unfortunately for marketing, it did get cut in some areas, because I think traditionally marketing is always seen a little bit as a discretionary spend. So people know they need to do it. And this is the dichotomy, I think. You have to market, whatever that means in the context of your business. But you're almost kind of, it feels like, well, that's when I've got a little bit left over, as opposed to seeing it as as necessary as having a shop front if you sell something and you need to service them in that way, or you can't do an online hairdresser service, so you need a shop so that people can wander in and actually receive the service. So maybe not the best analogy, but the idea that it is an essential part of being in business. You can't not do it, whatever form that takes. So I think initially what that meant is people paused, sometimes cut some of their expenditure, advertising, and in some cases that was actually very warranted. We weren't all thinking of buying every product that we might normally. We were focusing on toilet paper, it would seem, and other things like
I was going to say, toilet paper was a big thing.
Yeah, but equally, you know, in those times, it's really fascinating from a marketing perspective to see what emerges in the gaps. And I think within about 2 weeks, I came across two startup businesses
Mm.
in toilet paper home delivery service. So the main market leader, you know, who gives a crap,
Yeah.
was actually now looking at having some competitors who saw an opportunity, and they were really smart because they said these are pre-orders. So at that point, the panic was still an emotional need that we needed to
Mm.
fill. So even though quite probably when those deliveries came through, you could get them at the supermarket, and that's exactly what happened. Knowing that you had a supply somewhere in the future kind of calmed that emotional reaction
Yeah.
to COVID. So they were really clever. So if they can keep their supply up and their you know, their product quality is good, then they may have just nabbed a little bit of market share from the leaders into the future. So that landscape's changed for that business.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else? I mean, I think you know, the pausing in some respects was really important. For others, you know, that's an extra momentum hit that they probably served themselves that they didn't need. Brand awareness is a funny thing. It takes some time to build, and it's easily forgotten because, I don't know, I certainly don't walk around the house thinking of all the brands that I care about all day, every day. I only think about them when I need to buy something that's from that category. So people don't care about our brands as much as we would love them to. We're just not on their radar most of the time. So that brand awareness was always really important. And the smart companies and those who had the financial means, if they did more and had the opportunity to do more, was actually a really smart thing to do. They're grabbing some of that share of voice and share of attention while their competitors were dropping off or maintaining. So it's a great time if you can spend on marketing to invest in it now.
It's the old adage, you can't afford not to advertise.
Correct.
And you're right, people look at it as a discretionary item, and it's not. It's an essential part of doing your business. And it was what I found really, really interesting. My daughter is in digital marketing, and indeed, when COVID hit, her business, you know, her revenue plummeted. And I can understand, and so could she understand that, yep, people were cutting back, they were evaluating, and you know what you said before about how can we save our resources, in particular cash. And but what she found astounding is that so many businesses, and we spoke about it I interviewed her on my little program here. What was fascinating was that not only did people stop spending money on social media promotion, they actually stopped social media full stop.
Yeah.
And what was fascinating is that, bottom line, it's free.
Yeah.
other than
Exactly.
your time resources, social media is free. And yet so many businesses still wanted to, you know, drop off. It's like, you know, it's like the world was going to end. So I think human behavior I find intriguing and quite fascinating. And I'm sure you're the same from a marketing perspective, you know, when you're evaluating behavior and you know, consumerisms and so on and so forth. We spoke about the marketing landscape and things like that. And certainly in your years of marketing, you know, there's been some changes that you've seen, you know, behavior. I'm a massive follower of Gary Vaynerchuk, or Gary V, as some people know him, and watching him and what he talks about and where people pay attention, you know, where their eyeballs go. It's a changing landscape. Tell me what you see. Tell me what you've experienced over the last few years.
I mean, I think something we've always known, and perhaps we're focusing a little bit more on now, and it's in a way it's a continuation of your last comment, is that we often make emotional purchases and then we post rationalize our decision. So, you know, we will often, particularly if it's an unusual expenditure. I mean, I'm not talking toothpaste, you know, not that kind of category. But for most decisions, we buy because it fills some kind of need for us. And then we come up with the checklist of reasons why it was great. You know, it was the right size, it was the, you know,
It was
the
on sale.
brand we like. Excellent, exactly right. When in actual fact, you know, there's plenty of research that shows that loyalty, you know, a person who is loyal to the Apple brand describes loyalty in the same way as a person who is loyal to an Android brand. So those at the brand level actually doesn't vary a great deal. So then it comes down to, okay, well, you're in a category that people will want to buy. So how do you make your brand really visible and what's called salient, which means being thought of in the buying situation. So there's no point having a product that you promote when it's time for someone to buy that product or service. They don't think of you. It's not really, you know, ticking all the boxes from a marketing perspective. So I think we've had a lot more focus on salience, and drawing in your focus, your comment about your daughter's business, stopping social media. I think, you know, probably what happened there is people didn't know what to say. Unfortunately, there's, you know, extra work to be done when you bring that activity back up. So you've lost a bit of momentum there, and you're giving people a chance to slip into someone else's consciousness instead of you at that brand level. So certainly the idea that it's fast, people don't care about us, we need to grab their attention quickly. Although there's an alternate approach, which I'm seeing a lot of, which is very long social media posts, very long ads, because the idea is if you get someone to read right to the bottom, they're a warm lead. So there are times when you can certainly test both approaches and see whether the quality of your leads change based on how long or short your content is. Video is obviously a really big one, but equally, you know, there's plenty of people who really just kind of touch on and touch off. We've got so much content out there. Really, we need to be saying things that are meaningful and relevant to the people who we're targeting. So content for the sake of content, I think we're all kind of over that. But certainly a really structured approach to thinking about what message makes sense to the person I want to reach. How can I deliver that to them? So the message always precedes the mode.
And look, I've been in sales for as long as I can remember, which is many, 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 many years. And I looking at some statistics, you know, we're told now from a marketing perspective that 25 years ago, you needed to make 5 impressions, you know, whether that was a cold call, a phone call, a quote or whatever. Now the numbers they're talking are, it's in excess of 25 impressions that you need to make before getting a client. Now, those impressions obviously can be from a raft of medium, you know, whether it's social media, whether it's phone calls, whether it's, you know, letters, whatever, emails. How do you see that impacting and from a structured perspective for clients or for businesses out there watching to go, okay, you just mentioned about, you know, your content, you know, not content for content's sake, but it's got to be a structured approach. So if you've got to achieve those 20 to 25 touch points, what are you seeing or what are you suggesting to your clients?
Okay, so my suggestion is to shortcut that entirely.
Wow. Okay.
So,
let me write. Hang on. I got to change my page here, Tanya. This is
right.
Just remember, as I've said to many of my other guests, I'm asking for a friend.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only reason I've done this is for free consults.
Yeah. Very enterprising.
Yeah. So tell me. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess again, it's very hard to generalize because every business, every product, every
Sure.
service, every
Sure.
category is entirely different. However, what I like to suggest is orientating your marketing focus towards the word of mouth and the referral focus as much as it's relevant to your business. So if you go to my website, you'll see that I post a blog maybe once every 2 months. Now, you might expect that as a marketer, I would publish once a week. I don't, because that's not where my business comes from. My business comes from servicing people really well and having them refer people on. So in fact, in most cases, it's 1 or 2 steps and exposures. So we've definitely seen a big shift in recommendation. And if you have the opportunity in your business to build that referrer network in an organic way because people trust you and people are really advocates of you after they've worked with you, then you don't need to do very much else. Again, it depends. If you're selling a physical product, then volume and reach are going to be really important. But if you're service-based, that word of mouth recommendation is really key. So I do very little advertising myself, but I spend a lot of time really servicing my clients well. And if I can do that, then I'm the person they think of when they're in a conversation and say, I really need this. So for me, gearing a business, a marketing approach towards that referral and word of mouth, reviews, if you're
reviews,
on Google, that's good, but a lot of people don't have Google accounts, so don't just rely on that. So you won't get them from people who aren't prepared to do that. But do some really active canvassing of your own past clients. So ask them for a testimonial. And include a question like, what would you say to someone who's considering working with me? That's a great question because you find out from them what they value about you. And then what I found over time is I've actually been able to adjust the way I talk about my business and the way I focus on my services based on the real experience of my customers. So it's not about me saying who I am, it's what do people value? And if they value that, then maybe someone else values it. So let me talk about that in how I talk about my business and how I market myself. Does that make any sense?
Makes an enormous amount of sense. And I get exactly what you're saying. Referrals, I mean, again, we deal with people to the extent that we know, like, and trust them. And
Correct.
it's so important to build that trust. And there are so many businesses out there. And look, I'm absolutely guilty of it in the past, of not getting referrals, even though there was a strong word of mouth element, but actually getting these testimonials. And look, nowadays, with all the, I guess we'll call it tools that are available to us, there's absolutely no reason not to ask or get testimonials and referrals. And you look at so many high profile businesses at the moment that do video testimonials as well.
Yeah, and I guess just to add to that, I think sometimes people are shy to ask. We'll get someone else to do it. I do it for some of my clients. It's easy to get a third person if you feel a bit awkward about it. And I think the thing to remember here is we have so many decisions to make in a day. Our brains are looking for shortcuts.
Absolutely.
So yes, we can Google, and search is important, and an online presence is important. But if you can just ask someone and they say, talk to them, you're probably going to go and talk to them. So,
Exactly.
a mental shortcut, if you can kind of really make that part of a core focus and not neglect that, you can do all the other stuff. But in a way, you can run a really efficient business by just focusing on that.
Yeah.
As long as they're authentic. I'm not a big fan of swapping contacts just for the sake of swapping contacts. Where you can provide value, because that's also my reputation and it's your reputation, Con. You want people to say, when I ask Con for a recommendation, he gives me someone who I know he trusts. So that authenticity is really important too for me.
No, that's a really, really good point. There's obviously, I want to wind up now. Obviously, there's in anything we do, there's some really strong don'ts and some really strong do's. Let's just maybe touch on a couple of perhaps things that you've seen or see and you go, oh my God, what are they doing? So maybe give us a couple of strong don'ts.
Yep. Okay. So don't assume all of your customers are in one bucket. So they have different needs. And so when you're thinking about segmenting them, think about logical reasons to segment them. Often it might be, if you're in a B2B space, for example, it might be the maturity of their business or the decision-making process in their business. So segment wisely. Don't use arbitrary, you're in this industry or that industry. Often industry isn't a huge determinant if your product is relevant across industries. So be smart about that. And be really wise about your content development. So, I get served up a lot of ads for clothing. I must do way too much online shopping. I cannot tell you how many I see during a day. Yeah, sucker here.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Hang on.
but I see a lot
note
of them.
to self.
Note to self. Easy return policy. Anyway, but one thing that really drives me mad is when I get an ad from someone who's telling me about the spring catalogue and we're going into autumn. It's from the other side of the world. I haven't even thought about the fact that we're in a completely opposite season in this hemisphere. Yeah. So, just that's a real turn off. That's like, you don't know me at all. You don't actually care about me. You're just transactional in how you treat me. So that's a don't take for granted, or don't, think clearly about the relevance of your message to your audience. Another don't is don't copy someone else. You're not someone else. And so often you see people who they're so busy looking at everyone else that they forget to own their own identity. And particularly in a service environment, people are buying you. They're not buying a product off the shelf. You're not a substitutable product. You are yourself. So that means that there are people who will like you and people who choose to work with someone else. And that's fine, because you want to work with your people. So being authentic. And there's another reason for that, and it's entirely practical. And that is, when you are yourself, all of your, your blogs, the email marketing you might do, your promotional pieces, everything you communicate will fit and feel like an integrated brand, because you're not pretending to be someone else. Where I see an inconsistency is where someone is trying to wear this hat, but that isn't them at all. They're actually over here. They're trying to speak like this, but it doesn't sound like them. It's not them. So they're impersonating someone, and you can actually pick that up. You might not be able to be as specific as what it is, but what you'll get over time is inconsistency. And it reminds me of a saying Mum always had, which is, if you tell the truth, you never have to remember your lies. And I think that applies in marketing. So if you tell your truth and you are authentic to you, and that attracts or repels whoever it attracts and repels, then it's an easier job to market and to put your communications out there. So don't be someone else, because it's hard.
Yeah, trying to copy. I mean, it just doesn't work. We all have, and that's the unique thing. There's a lot of businesses, obviously, that are similar in terms of whether it be their product or service, but they all get business because at the end of the day, they deliver their product and or service in a different way. We have a unique perspective on certain information. So, just because you've got 3 real estate agents, the 4th one, he's the same bloke, he knows the same information, but he's delivering it in a different way. And as you said, if it's authentic, there's more opportunity for connection with authenticity. There's no question. Okay, so just to wind up, just a couple of little tips for my friend. And
Yeah. I mean, I think, for me, the now and the next of marketing, you know, post-COVID. And obviously we're all still talking about the effect of that. And we're really lucky here in Adelaide and in Australia to live where we do. But I think I'm seeing the signs of emergence. So if you're not currently thinking about your marketing yet, now's a really good time. I think now's a really good time to ask questions. So maybe revisit the services you've had to adapt. So for example, I've brought some of my roundtable facilitation focus group sessions online, and I think there's probably a place for that to broaden out, so it's not always just metro people. So there might be some learnings in how you've adapted your services in this time that are worth carrying forward. A really good time to ask questions. So if you haven't done a survey for a while, or you've never done a survey, it doesn't have to be a SurveyMonkey formal thing. It could be, I just want to have a chat with you for 10 minutes. There are some things I want to, you know, ask you about, and just do some intel gathering, and then use that to build a strategy and get back in the market as quickly as possible.
Fantastic information, and my friend is eternally grateful. Tanya, it's been a lot of fun, and it's taken me a while to actually get you on the program. You avoided me like the plague. I'm not quite sure why.
It wasn't personal.
No, well,
it's this little camera thing.
It's the little camera thing. Yeah, look, I think people may have spread a few lies about me, but never mind. We'll move on from that. And ladies and gentlemen, I also want to mention that if we look in the background, whether you can see it or not, I'm suggesting it's a Kenwood chef or the like. Tanya is an amazing cook, and I'm being really, really nice because I'm hoping that some of those baked goodies may accidentally be wrongly delivered to my place. Tanya, it's been absolute fun having you. You're fantastic information for the viewers, and I look forward to having a chat with you in the very, very near future.
Thanks, Con.
Thank you very much. My name is Con, and I am the Conversationalist. And until our next regular episode, which is next Wednesday, bye for now.